a lot of the people who are listening, who, by the way, to a T fit the description you just described, where they probably have their own webinars and they're probably, I see it as well. They got this big passion on their heart and they want to share everything they do, but they just overwhelm people. I actually have a friend in real estate. She says whenever she teaches her stuff, people look at her like she got sprayed in the face with a fire hose, and they're just like, because it's exactly what you just described. So what are some of the ways that you recommend like people really condense it down and get to the more meaningful chunks? Like how do you kind of approach that whole thing?
So the way that I kind of try and condense it down is like if we're selling a course or a program, the way that I kind of break up my webinars is, in the content, they struggle in the offer and they struggle in the content piece. But if I'm specifically trying to eliminate the idea of teaching too much and create more desire and inspiration for whatever it is that they're selling, I'll break the content down into 3 specific pieces, 3 or 4, right? And the way that I do it is very, very simple. And this kind of helps our copywriters. This helps, anyone who's going through my training programs or coaching, break this down into more meaningful chunks. So the first piece of the content that I teach is really an introduction to their program, their offer at the end, right? Because we still need to let your audience know, anyone who's on a webinar, they have to know that you've got something to sell at the end. And so I want to pair that together with the first piece of content. So the first piece of content is always the vehicle or the system or the methodology that you're ultimately teaching at the end of the webinar.
Yeah.
So I will introduce that, and I'll say, hey, listen, this is the system that I've created. This is the model. This is the methodology that I believe is going to help you achieve X result, right? Mike Dillard does a very, very good job in this with his List Grow webinar. He basically says, like, if you want to make an impact, you want to build an audience, right? You have to learn how to do this while not having to pay for it. And he talks about using paid advertising and then selling, some sort of monthly recurring revenue program with. Anyway, I'm getting too into the weeds here, but so the step 1 is always teaching the methodology, which ultimately is your offer at the very end. Right. So we do that. We bring that up at the very, very beginning of your webinar, and we say, this is the model. This is the method. So any subsequent piece of content after that, whether it's 2 or 3 pieces, and I don't really go more than that, the next 2 or 3 pieces of content that you are teaching are all objection handling sequences to why that first piece of content, which is your model, why it won't work for your audience, right? So what's going on in their mind? Why do they not think that model is going to work for them? So, for example, one of our top performing webinars, which just did over $10 million last year, was a how to build a business on Amazon, right? So step number 1, we were talking about, we introduced how their method was backwards from everyone else that was selling Amazon training programs. So we introduced the model, introduced the method, and then by the time we got to the end of that first piece of content, the audience naturally had like 2 or 3 questions in their mind. Yeah, but what if, right? That's the main statement that I'm always trying to extract. Like, what are they saying what if to? Or yeah, but to? And then those are my next 2 pieces of content. So for them, it was, here's my system. And then it was, yeah, but how do I find my distributors, right? So in content piece number 2, I'm teaching them how to find their distributors. Then once they understand that finding distributors is easy and they can get access to hundreds of distributors and tens of thousands of products, their next yeah, but was, yeah, but how do I find profitable products? Like I have 100,000 products that I need to go through right now. Not all of them are going to be profitable. How do I do that? And so we taught those 3 pieces of content, and we got them to believe that it was possible for them, and it crushed. It was one of the top performing webinars that we have ever created, and we followed that formula, and it works time and time and time again.